Alright, so the learning theory we're going to talk about today is actually constructivist theory or constructivism. It is another cognitive theory. So again, it will use the processes of the brain to explain. Alright, so our objectives: identify characteristics of constructivism, describe advantages and disadvantages of constructivism, explain the key principles of Vygotsky's socio-cultural theory, and then describe the instructional implications of constructivist theory. Alright, so John Dewey. You might want to know who John Dewey is. It's kind of important for this lesson and to the next, actually. He believed people learn through experience, and so he was a big supporter of experiential learning, and also believed that knowledge is constructed by learners as they encounter problems. So um, he believed that people learn through experience, but they constructed that knowledge, and so that's going to be a very important aspect of constructivism, which is actually where it gets its name. He also believed that learning is active, so students should be actively involved in education. You can't be passive and just sit there and expect to learn, but you need to be active and actively trying and engaging in the content and in the lesson in order to actually be able to learn. So what is constructivism? It is a view of cognitive development that emphasizes the active role. Again, notice that's bolded. So active role of learners in building their own understanding of reality. So when I say they construct their own learning, think about construction sites and they're building. That's what we're talking about here. They build their own understanding of reality, or they build their own understanding of knowledge and information of the world around them. It's very important to remember that, because as you build a foundation of knowledge, if that knowledge is incorrect, then as you try to build on top of it, it's going to be much harder for you to relearn and learn the correct thing. And that's basically what we're talking about here in constructivism is that we continue to add on to the knowledge we already have, and so you want to make sure that the foundational knowledge is always correct. A technique that's what is constructivism is also a technique that encourages students to discover or construct information instead of the teacher directly revealing information. So we're not doing very much constructivist learning here with this lesson, in that I am showing you a PowerPoint and I'm telling you the information. If I wanted you to construct your own understanding of constructivism, I would have said research constructivism and tell me what it is. So then you would have gone out and done it on your own. You probably still would have been able to, probably still would have come up with generally the same ideas, concepts, but everybody's response would have been slightly different. That's characteristics of constructivism. Learners construct knowledge that makes sense to them. So if it doesn't make sense to you, you won't retain it, keep it, or be able to add knowledge to it. So whatever makes sense to you is what you will learn. New learning depends on current understanding. Again, your new learning is going to build off of the foundation of learning that you already have, or your foundational knowledge. And so if that foundational knowledge is incorrect, your new learning will be incorrect as well. Social interaction facilitates learning. Again, the more we interact with people and in different situations, the more we're going to learn through the constructivism idea. And then meaningful learning occurs within real-world tasks. I'm sure you've all had lots of assignments that you thought were a waste of time. Most likely those assignments had no real meaning to them. And so the more real world an assignment is, the more meaningful the learning becomes. Alright, so here's just kind of a visual example of constructivism. You think of this blue circle in the center of the screen as your foundational knowledge. we're going to put new knowledge around the outside of it. I know that was kind of anticlimactic, but think of it as you continue to add knowledge to that base, that middle portion, and just building outwards. So advantages. It is a natural way to learn. In fact, when you're learning on your own, and you come up with something that, oh, I'm interested in that, and I want to start, want to know more. And it's basically what you're doing is going through the constructivism process on your own. So it's a very natural way to learn. Student control, so the students kind of decide how they learn, how much they learn, that kind of thing. High interaction, so we do have a lot of interaction among students, which of course means very active learning. And the focus is on the students. So disadvantages, it's time consuming. Obviously, it's a lot quicker if I'm going to teach a class. If we had a face-to-face class and I'm going to teach it, I can get a lot more information in 50 minutes by just telling you the information rather than having you construct it and search for it and build it all on your own. And so it can be very time consuming. It can be very frustrating. Again, if your foundational knowledge is not correct, then you might have a really hard time building new knowledge because that new knowledge is not making sense to what you already know. And so it can be very frustrating because you are having to go out and find information on your own and make it make sense to what you already know. That's obviously a lot more frustrating than if I just told you what you needed to know. And of course, it limits the amount of information that you can learn because of it being time consuming and frustrating. Alright, so Lev Vygotsky. This is another guy you need to remember. So no John Dewey, no Lev Vygotsky. He emphasized the environment as a facilitator of learning and development. So he does believe that you learn and develop based on your environment. He says social interactions are critical. You need to be able to interact with other people if you want to learn and develop. He came up with the idea of the zone of proximal development, and so that's what we're going to talk about next. So two kinds of ability levels characterize all learners at any particular point in development. So the two types of abilities: actual developmental level and a level of potential development. So these are the main components of the zone of proximal development. I don't know what that black screen was. The zone of proximal development is the limit on what the learner is capable of learning. So we're going to think of this kind of as a stair-step kind of sort of graphic display here. So this red line is your actual level or your ability. It's what you can do. So that's where you're at. Okay? Then the next line would be your potential level or capability. So you're not there yet, but based on where you're at, that's where you have the ability to go. The rest of the black line is more information, more knowledge, more abilities that are above and beyond what you are capable of doing. So think of it in three parts: the ability, your actual level, what you can do; capability, what you have the potential to be able to do or learn; and then what's above that level. So it's like students in an algebra class. Obviously, they have the ability to do basic math. They have the capability of learning algebra, but calculus probably a little much for them. So again, that green potential level, the capability, that is your zone of proximal development. So anything from your actual level all the way up to this, levels that you're not able to do at all. That's the zone of proximal development. Alright, so learners may need assistance from others to accomplish challenging tasks. And this is actually a good place to be when you're in the zone of proximal development, or to know that you're in the zone of proximal development. So scaffolding, it's a support mechanism to complete a task in the zone of proximal development. So that's we're going to help. If you think about a scaffold in construction, what does it do? It helps you reach higher levels. So this is what it kind of means the same thing in education and learning. It's going to be something that helps you reach a higher level of learning. And this is done through peers and adults providing guidance. So you can have peers help you learn, or adults help you learn and provide that support. And it slowly allows the child to do it on their own. So eventually they should be able to do it on their own. So here's our graph again with the actual level ability and the potential level. Zone of proximal development provides some scaffolding support, and then we have a new actual level and new potential level. So see how that changes as we provide support and you learn. Your zone of proximal development moves up, and you have the potential to learn even more. Alright, so theory into practice. You might want to present some tasks that students can perform only with assistance. So, if all you ever do is present stuff that students can do, they're not learning. They're basically just regurgitating information and not actually taking any chance to learn. So you want to present some tasks that students can perform only with assistance. So they need to be able to ask for help or have to have some sort of assistance or help in order to complete a task or learn something new in order to actually push their boundaries of their knowledge. You want to provide sufficient support to enable students to perform challenging tasks successfully and then gradually withdraw that support. So provide however much support they need to perform it, and then have them do it again, but with a little less support, and continue to withdraw that support until they fully understand or can perform whatever task you put before them. Have students work in small groups to accomplish complex tasks. Why is that good? Students have different levels, skill levels, different abilities, and can provide help to other students. Again, from previous slides, peers and adults can provide guidance. So, if other students know how to do something, they can help students learn. And use authentic task problems and assessments. So you don't want to have fake task problems or assessments. You want to be more authentic, more real world with what you are having the students complete. I'm not going to go through these. Feel free to go through these on your own. There's a few more slides here. They are just some scenarios, but go through there and look at it. Determine if that activity is within the student's zone of proximal development. So see if they are presenting a task that can only be performed only with assistance, and that they are in their zone of proximal development. Okay, so I'll just go over this first one with you, and you can go over the rest. Selena's learning how to play the trumpet. She still has trouble with some of the high notes, but does better when her teacher shows her what she needs to do. Is that the zone of proximal development? Yes. So she's working on something that she has trouble with. It doesn't say she can't do it. She has trouble with it, and then does better when her teacher shows her what she needs to do. So again, that teacher needs to continue to gradually take stuff away, but she's definitely working in the zone of proximal development. Alright, so Virginia's, I'll just go ahead, there's only like 4 of them. I'll just go ahead and read through these and tell you what I think. Virginia is quite adept at simple algebra problems while her classmates are solving for an X on paper. She arrives at the correct answer in her head. Is she in the zone of proximal development? No, because she clearly has the ability to do to do this, to do algebra, and so she is not working within the zone of proximal development. A fourth grade teacher asks the students to read an article in a recent issue of Time magazine. He describes the main point of the article before students begin reading it, and he gives them several questions that they should try to answer as they read. Even so, the students are unable to understand what they are reading. Are they in the zone of proximal development? The teacher did try to provide support and ways to help the students learn and understand, but they are unable to understand what they're reading. So he is outside of what they're capable or potentially able to do, and so they are outside of the zone of proximal development. He needs to back it up, find other ways to support, or maybe find a different lower reading level article for them to read. Alright, in her unit on genetics, the high school science teacher has students working with fruit flies because the students are initially confused about what they are supposed to do. She writes specific instructions on the chalkboard and then circulates around the room to assist students who are having trouble identifying males and females correctly. These specific instructions seem to help students identify males and female fruit flies correctly. So in proximal development, yes, it is, because she's provided a task with directions and clarity, and then not only did she provide the clear directions, but she went around and students who still had trouble, she provided further assistance one-on-one to help them fully understand. Alright, so that is constructivism. Again, it's all about building or constructing your knowledge. Know who Dewey is, know who Vygotsky is, know what the zone of proximal development is, and you should be fine.